up, everybody? My name's Chris Marshall with my boy Frank G. We are the hosts of Build Your Empire podcast. Frank G, tell the people what we do.
What's going on, guys? Chris and I, we talk established empires while showcasing us building ours.
And we are on every Monday and Thursday, so you can stream us anywhere. We appreciate your comments and feedback. And on Thursday's episodes, we go and take a deep dive into established empires. And today, Frank G, who are we going to go and deep dive in?
Today, we are deep diving a man of many talents.
Many talents.
Rogan.
Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan. So our first podcast, we said our 5 most influential people,
yes.
And Joe Rogan was in my top 5 list, and he was made
in
it
as well.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, remember I researched him. I left out paperwork at work, but I had 4. He was my 5th.
Oh, so, that's hilarious. I do remember that.
Yeah.
I remember plucking Kevin Hart out of the top 5 to put Joe Rogan in, and that's because so Joe Rogan's going to be easy for me. Typically, we do research. I didn't do any research just because I've listened to this man for about 1.5 years daily. So I'm pretty familiar with his career, with his earnings, what he does. And it just makes sense to speak about him now simply because of the contract he just signed with Spotify.
Absolutely. I will say though, I've followed him for a while now. He's had so many different career paths or things that he does. It seems like he is a private man when it comes to his personal life and even his financial, because it seems like there's about 7 different estimations about what his net worth is. And no one seems to know exactly how much he was making standalone on his podcast.
So in all fairness, I think that is with majority of entertainers and celebrities. Mm-hmm. Nobody really knows the net worth.
Unless they share it, yeah.
Correct. In fact, when we did Drake's net worth was about 260. But then I was listening to a song today, and he goes 500 mil, and I go back to the 6. Yeah, so I'm like, wait a second, his net worth is higher.
Yeah, it's usually understated, it seems, because I'm looking at Joe Rogan, 52 years old, one of the richest comedians in the entire world.
He's got to be number 1.
Yeah,
and that's due to all his ventures.
That's due to all his ventures. The man. Where did he start? He started as a stand-up comedian. Then he went
91, I think, or 90. He started very early.
1988, he was a stand-up comedian. Although he preferred martial arts at the time. That was like his thing. That was his go-to.
Yeah, he did that in high school.
Yeah, he ended up doing taekwondo and I think kickboxing in high school. This man also struggled a lot. He didn't find
his parents were hippies.
His parents were hippies. He didn't find his passion until late teens. Even later, his career wasn't successful until later. And so it was the opposite of our last episode where our guest, Amadeus, found his passion in 2nd and 3rd grade. So it's crazy. Everyone's lives are different.
Well, Joe Rogan, I believe he found his passion at 20 when he he was doing stand-up.
Yeah. Yes, it just wasn't, I guess, successful at the time yet.
I talk to people now, and they don't know what their passion is.
Absolutely.
At 28.
I did a poll today on Instagram about that, and more people said no. They don't know what their passion is yet.
No idea. So I'm thankful and fortunate.
Yeah, it's also this story on Joe Rogan alone is inspiring anyway. This man has taken shots at every part of the career. He's caught breaks, like meeting Dana White and Dana White finding about how knowledgeable he is in UFC and him just somehow getting a job as a commentator.
But this was back when UFC was absolutely nothing.
It was almost bankrupt. It was almost bankrupt.
Yeah, and I think they were only doing shows in like rural America.
Yeah, and
they were doing the cage fighting.
And he originally told Dana no, and then he goes, and Dana convinced him, and he goes, you know what? Just get me there, get my friends tickets, and I'll do it for free. And he did that for about a year, and then he ended up becoming just the commentator instead of just an interviewer.
Which is hilarious that that's his role. He didn't even know how to do that.
He had no idea, and that's the same thing for Fear Factor. This was a random show, just piloted. And they just approached him. Would you like to be the host of Fear Factor? And he was like, this is probably going to go nowhere, but yeah. it was one of the biggest blockbusters of its time.
And Fear Factor, I would say, is almost why he is a household name.
Yeah. As in, like, you'd share time with, like, your family watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you go to most 45-year-olds and over and say who was Joe Rogan, they'll be like the Fear Factor guy.
It's just crazy. It's incredible how he's had so many areas of success. I mean, comedy,
yeah, he hits over and over.
He has probably the most loyal fan base ever. And I'm not sure how it will be affected by now only being able to watch his new streams on Spotify.
If the content doesn't change, nothing is going to change. But word is the reason why he switched over is because he essentially was getting frustrated.
Too much time spent.
What do you mean?
As in, he had to use his own time and money to distribute himself.
No, he doesn't spend it. He makes money distributing himself.
Well, that's because he makes money off the podcast, but he still has to distribute himself.
I don't know exactly what you mean by that. YouTube does that for him, but the problem is YouTube began pretty much censoring him. And for a guy who is not overly political, he was getting frustrated with YouTube's rules and guidelines.
Well, it is pretty insane that it's something that, I mean, we thought was not going to work during our April challenge is, I mean, at points, this man comes out with almost 3 hour episodes daily, or, you know,
probably 4 episodes a week.
Yeah. So, and the fact that those stream at like 400,000 to multiple million, depending on who's on the show, it's incredible to see that he could reach that feat, and it's new content like every other day.
Well, he has guests. I mean, and
personalities, very knowledgeable. It's a very learning experience podcast. I mean, this guy has astrophysicists, he has nutritionists, he has doctors.
Because it became a passion. I mean, he's kind of the podfather. There's plenty of podfathers, but he's one of them. Started almost 11 years ago. The reason why he started was Tom Green, which is funny. And I mean, he just has conversations. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, he essentially like talks about life and the universe and like what's going on, and anyone who's a guest that has knowledge, he's trying to bring to us, it's awesome. I mean, he's got comedians, he's got professionals. It just seems like it's 3 hours. So we thought we were having trouble doing 50-minute episodes.
Well, that's different. I mean, he's having really good conversations.
Yeah.
And he has a fan base, and he has fans in diverse areas. Diverse. It just all comes together. I believe they estimated he makes roughly 30-40K an episode.
Yeah, I was looking at that when I first was looking up like his net worth, and then I'm seeing a little bit more. But in 2019 and 2020, it would make sense that it's a little bit more. I mean, I think obviously even before this deal, this man signed $100 million for a multi-year deal with Spotify. I think his revenue was probably reaching over 50 million, close to like maybe 75. I mean, there were so many different ones.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about revenues from all.
Everything.
All, yeah. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, the podcast alone makes him about $200,000 a week, and that's on new content alone. So
what is that? That's about $5 million a year.
Yeah, and so that's only on new content though. So now there's the old episodes that are still getting millions of streams.
Well, you continuously get paid on that. It's almost like you own your masters for music. It's like similar.
Yeah. Yes.
But I mean, it all accumulates, especially when you have a shit ton of episodes. But I don't know how many people are going back to episode, 10 and watching it.
To have 190 million downloads on Spotify, on what was it? Maybe Apple? I forget.
I mean, I hear you, kid. I'm trying to get 100 downloads a week.
Yeah. 270 million. It's like incredible. It's incredible for someone
Yeah,
who's in this field. This guy is a legend. He's a goat. He's an undisputed podfather.
yeah, but I mean, I'd be careful there because I don't know if you know other people in the podcasting industry, but
There's people that actually Spotify pay more than him recently.
but I mean, he's just been doing it 10, 11 years.
Yeah, but he also has such a huge fan base. Yeah, I mean, he's accumulated so much. And Spotify is genius because they're going to make a ton of money off of this guy.
Well, it seems like what Spotify is trying to do is trying to get into the podcasting world because, I mean, podcasts are increasing exponentially. So, yeah. So Spotify sees, of course, a revenue stream there, and they're making their bet.
Well, I mean, and they're winning. They're doing it right. And
I don't know about that. I feel like Apple Podcasts may be beating them.
From what I'm researching, they're currently not. But I don't. There's so many different areas to get your sources from. I guess it's kind of
correct.
Tough.
Which is why anyone who has a podcast has to ensure that they're everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. But I know in the last 2 years, Spotify alone has spent, I think, $700 million in getting exclusive podcasters on their platform. And they've paid someone double what they paid Joe Rogan.
Who's that?
It was 4 of them. Spotify spent $700 million on getting 4 podcasts on their show. One is Gimlet and Anchor. That's the $340 million. They paid $340 million deal to Gimlet and Anchor.
What is that? Business, comedy? I mean, what the hell kind of podcast is that? Never heard of it. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, this is the first I was hearing it when I was looking it up.
Which just goes to show you how actually unsaturated the market is currently.
Yeah, I mean it's a great market to, I guess, attempt to get into right now.
Right now is a good time to get into it. If you wait another year, it probably would be more difficult.
Yeah, but I think because of the amount of I don't know, it's Joe Rogan and Jamie, I think Vernon. It's 2 guys that
pull it up, Jamie.
Yeah, and 2 guys just rip through the show. He's the producer and he's the he's the editor.
Jamie does everything.
Jamie, you know how they met?
Well, he used to do the show with someone else, and the guy dropped off. I wonder if he's tight right now.
His name is Brian Redband.
Yeah, Redband.
He was the co-host though, so he was also on the show.
Yeah, and then he probably was just like, fuck this.
Well, and then they said he wasn't skilled or talented enough.
That is funny and rude.
It is a little rude, but I think he was lacking equipment and the knowledge on how to use the equipment. But Jamie and Rogan met, apparently. This is another source I read on the internet. Jamie entered a Googling competition and came in 37th. Joe Rogan met him through that, and Jamie said, "I'll work for you and you only have to pay me in elk jerky and expired Alpha Brain." One of the products.
So smart. Joe Rogan loves hunting. He loves elk, and he got his interest.
Yeah, he got him instantly.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, and Jamie has to be a very intelligent guy. He's running the show. I mean, he's producing the show. He's editing.
Well, I don't even think that takes. I mean, it takes a lot of skill, but it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of patience.
Yeah. And you got to know these programs. I mean, obviously, you need to know these editing programs. But I'm assuming it also takes talent to become in 37th in a Googling contest. It can't just be a contest for shits and giggles. I don't know.
I see what you're saying, but, I mean, who knows what the contest was?
I would assume. Yeah, I guess. So how quickly to find this exact information. But, yeah, I don't know. Because obviously he hits up Jamie. Hey, Jamie, pull it up. Boom, boom. 3 seconds. He's got whatever topic.
Well, that's because they've been working with each other so long that, I mean, you start to know what the other person's thinking, and if they're gonna ask, pull that up. He already has it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess they're definitely best friends now.
I would imagine they're with each other 3 hours a day at least.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much of that 100 mil he's giving Jamie.
I'm very curious to know how much Jamie.
How much
makes
would
off
you
this.
give him? I guess I'd give him a fifth, maybe a tenth.
This guy has to get at least a few $1 million.
Yeah, I would say 5 to 10 million. But also, I don't know if he's getting paid all up front. I highly doubt it.
Oh, Rogan?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe there was a signing bonus, but
what's interesting is he's taken all his YouTube content down.
Yeah. Well,
and I watch his content via YouTube.
Same. So I read that he has 2 YouTube accounts, which is pretty interesting. He has
one with the shows, and then one he has mini
with
clips.
The clips, one with like the highlights. So
and that's why he stopped going live.
Well, essentially, people think he could be double dipping, but I mean, whatever. That's great. You found a way to make money off of shit you already created.
That's actually hilarious and incredibly smart.
It's amazing. It's another reason why I look up to Joe Rogan. I mean, he's a very intelligent guy, and he says whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah. Well, if you have all that money, there's no corporate to buy to.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, he's just it's his show. So yeah,
he says the same shit over and over.
But what makes it amazing is that it's always his opinion. It's always on point, and it's always his opinion, and he doesn't care if you think differently. It's incredible.
Well, he wants to hear perspectives and speak in a respectful manner. What's interesting with podcasting, and I guess you could throw social media in there, but I guess I would say more podcasting, is podcast news is becoming more real news, like a more realistic source.
Oh, yeah, like instead of a major channel like Fox, you're saying?
Correct. Mm-hmm. So instead of hopping on CNN and Fox where it's biased, you can have an individual come on like Joe Rogan, or Joe Rogan has an individual come on, and when they talk for 2 hours, that is unfiltered information that can be clarified in the moment and is like filled with spontaneity. So
it's like real. It's not scripted It's not on the screen. It's not like your eyes are to the screen. And
that becomes the news. And that's what I think was frustrating Joe Rogan is I think he was stating how his recent show with Elon Musk had 8 million views, and he felt like that should have had 50 million views, but YouTube shadow bans it.
Yeah. Well, he's at 32 million now.
I guess I have no more to say about that.
Yeah, that's his highest streaming episode ever.
Yeah, I was just watching the one with him and Kevin Hart the other day.
Yeah, I don't know if he's been on more than once, but I saw one with Kevin Hart.
He's been on twice.
Yeah.
So because I'm working remotely, I'm not working in the city, I'm not listening to his shows because I'm not commuting. However, this past week, I've put on 2 episodes he had this past week, and that was Kevin Hart and Tony Hawk. And Tony Hawk is the man.
Tony Hawk is the absolute man. I just saw a viral video on him as well.
Of him going in the pool?
No, this was something totally different. So if you have a story about it, you tell me.
Oh, a viral video went out the other day where he snuck into a community with his kids, and there was like a pool, but it was drained, so he was skating the pool.
That's fantastic.
And all of a sudden, the community manager comes out, and he's like, "That's fucking Tony Hawk. I know Tony Hawk when I see him." And then the whole community was just watching him skate.
That's pretty insane.
He put a post up.
That's something you do in like a 1990 skate movie. You skate inside a pool that's not even filled.
Well, that's what he was laughing at. Is he put up a post and he was like, back in the 90s, I'd get arrested for this. He's like, this is the only thing fame is good for.
Yeah, you could do whatever you want.
Pretty much. I mean, and Tony, bro, he is the man.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. The viral video I just saw of him was, I think, a kid wanted to give him a skateboard, and he gave it to the mailman, thinking he could somehow deliver it to him. The
Oh,
mailman,
that one too. Yeah,
yeah, the mailman
made
made
a
a
TikTok.
video in a TikTok, and Tony Hawk saw it and is now sending him Tony. It's just crazy. Tony Hawk seems like a great guy.
Yeah, I was watching Sports Center, and they had the kids and Tony Hawk on live, like talking to each other. It was actually a little awkward.
Well, it's weird because Tony Hawk's first fans were little. I was little, and I love Tony Hawk, so I'm assuming they have to be new little kids unless people followed him throughout his career. I mean, I haven't watched Tony Hawk in so long.
Well, yeah, that's why it was awkward, is because it didn't seem like they were Tony Hawk fans.
I'm thinking little kids are not probably really Tony
Dude,
Hawk fans.
they were like 8 and 11.
Yeah, it's probably too new, and he's too. I mean, I don't want to say irrelevant, but he doesn't skate in competitions much anymore. So I don't. It's
I
kind of
mean,
like,
he's still probably, if you skate, you have to know him from the video
yes.
games,
Oh, without a
and
doubt.
they're still relevant.
Regardless, you got to know who Tony Hawk is.
It makes sense. But it was actually very cringy to watch.
That's interesting. I'm surprised it worked out that way because usually he was very good around kids. That's what.
Oh, he's great around kids, but like when they were asking the kids the question, like, "Oh, why are you a Tony Hawk fan?" They're like, "I don't know." Like it was just.
If I would be Pro Skater 3.
It was yeah.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3.
The schoolyard, the alley,
Yeah, yeah. Playing horse.
the hangar.
Yeah. Oh man, but I guess Tony Hawk is a goat in his craft the same way Joe Rogan's the goat in his craft.
Oh yeah, I mean we could do an episode on Tony Hawk.
Yeah, I mean he changed the game of skating, and I mean Joe Rogan I think is currently changing the game of podcast. I mean he's got this huge deal I think this is crazy. I mean, some think he should have stayed on his own because he would have eventually made more money. But I think partnering obviously made sense.
I don't know about that. And I even sent you the video of Gary Vee. He predicted it where, once you have all this attention, eventually you're going to monetize it and you're going to make it exclusive. And the only way you're going to do that is essentially being bought out.
Bought out. Yep.
Yeah, the question becomes, do you want to sell out? Because that is the image that you're going to portray.
People think he's sold out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want that image for him because I think he's doing everything right. I don't care. I still think he's going to do his show the way he wants. So I'm not hating on him at all for this.
No, although this is why Spotify did the deal, right? I don't use Spotify or have Spotify, yet I'm on Spotify. We're on Spotify.
Oh yeah, that's why I mainly listen to podcasts now on Spotify.
Yeah, if I have to now use Spotify, that is exactly why Spotify paid him $100 million.
Absolutely. And Spotify, I think, only added podcasting onto their platform 5 years ago.
Very recent.
Yeah.
And I mean, the reason why this news is so big is because after this news broke, I wouldn't be surprised if fucking 20,000 podcasts started up in the past week.
Exactly. I mean, it's clear. I mean, this guy is very successful in this craft. That probably would inspire anybody in any field. But also, yeah, Spotify's stock rose, I think, like 8% the second this was announced.
Oh, that makes sense. I'm actually upset about that.
Me too. I was like, damn. I mean, that would have been nice, but it's only going to Spotify is only going to, I think, increase in the next 10 years. It's only going to get I think it's taken over. I don't know why. I just feel like it is. It's like giving Apple, I think, a run for its money. I don't know numbers, but obviously they're moving. They're clearly moving.
Well, from our podcast, Apple Podcast has about a 60-30 ratio.
Ratio towards what? What do you mean?
60% of our users come from Apple, 30% come from Spotify.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure what you meant.
I tell you what, though, Spotify is instantaneous when you upload, where Apple, I got to wait 24 hours like a jerk off.
Yeah, I still don't understand that. I guess.
Yeah, it's me tight.
Well, iTunes was the last of the platforms we joined, so
Yeah, and it was the most fucking annoying.
yeah. Well, we got there, and they added us to other countries that we didn't even aware they were doing, which I guess relates to Joe Rogan going to Spotify. He's losing countries that his podcast was in that Spotify is not in.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was reading that because I guess people watch it. I mean, I watch him on YouTube, like you said. It's nice to see his guests because he's always got outstanding celebrities or well-rounded, knowledgeable people. So I always watch him on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, couple of weeks ago, I was spitting some quantum physics
Yeah,
info, and that was pretty much Joe Rogan.
yeah. He's got some of the best guests, and I guess we're trying to get the best guests for our show as well.
Tell you what, though, if you are listening, you are the best. We appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Build Your Empire podcast on Joe Rogan.
On Joe Rogan, one of my favorites, a guy I look up to.
Yes, sir. I'm out. I'm going to finish this bottle of Pinot Grigio, and I'll see y'all on Monday.
We'll see you guys on Monday. I just want to leave you with a quote that I love from Joe Rogan real quick.
Drop it.
One of the most fascinating lessons I've absorbed about life is that the struggle is good. The struggle is good, ladies and gentlemen. Fight through it. Live on.
I don't like struggles, but yeah.